Recent U.S. travel advisory, American citizens are being urged to think twice before traveling to Jamaica.
Two of the most beautiful destinations in the Caribbean now clouded by a stark warning from the U.S. government. The State Department bumping up the advisory level from 2 to 3 in Jamaica, urging Americans to reconsider travel there.
Welcome to my YouTube channel, Travel with Brittany. I'm Brittany, and today I just had to do a video on the safety of Jamaica and the recent travel advisories that were issued by the United States, which is a bit ironic to me, and Canada. But I have had a few persons who have reached out to me on Facebook and even YouTube regarding this issue, and I'll do both advisories and state if there's any truth in the advisory itself. To me, it was a bit interesting regarding the shock of the advisory, and I don't mean the claims are not ridiculous from a Jamaican perspective, but in May 2023, Jamaica was considered a level 3 reconsider travel with the same written warning. It just updated. The NBC news clip I used in the beginning of the video is actually incorrect, and I don't know if they did this knowingly to spark an outrage or it's just blatant misinformation and improper research. They said it moved from a level 2 to a level 3 for Jamaica.
The State Department bumping up the advisory level from 2 to 3 in Jamaica, urging Americans to reconsider travel there.
But I did a video in August 2023 where I used the actual article from the State Department website. It stated it was updated in May 2023, but I videoed the article in August 2023 from the website, and it stated Jamaica was a level 3. Maybe it's more newsworthy and adds to shock value if they say we moved from a level 2 to a level 3. And before I even saw the clip, I was wondering if the shock came from Jamaica not being moved to a lower level to level 2. But now I get why persons are massively shocked. No, I don't know if other news stations stated the same thing. If anyone saw this same information on a different news station, just let me know in the comments below. And before you say that the information saying that Jamaica has moved from a level 2 to a level 3 doesn't make a big difference, it does. First, they're saying Jamaica got worse than the prior year, which is what is being indicated in a level change. And for persons who are not familiar with the previous advisory, it might deter them from visiting Jamaica. And Jamaica thrives from tourism. No, I'm not saying that Jamaica does not experience crime, and I'm not saying our crime rate is not high for a country of our population. But when America makes a statement like the homicide rate reported by the government of Jamaica has for several years been among the highest in the Western Hemisphere, which I am not saying is not true, but for the average tourist or person looking on something like that, you can lose a bit of perspective. And in a lot of ways, which unbiasedly, I cannot wrong them if you're looking at a statement like that and thinking in your mind that Jamaica is just plagued with crime. But this general statement does not take into account that crime is typically measured per capita. It does not take into account how much of these homicides are gang related, which is not to say that that's not bad, but tourists are not affected.
We exceed 1,200 police officers joining the force per year, which of course now means that we are actually growing the force.
Jamaica's National Police pointing out the number of homicides have actually dropped by nearly 20% compared to January of last year.
Crime, we've intervened and prevented crimes. I mean, the constabulary operates at a level now that it has never before in Jamaica's history.
In 2023, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, reported a 7.8% decline in murders. This as there were 118 fewer murders than the 1,511 homicides in 2022.
As you can see, our crime rate has decreased from 2022 to 2023, yet we were still considered a level 3 by the US. And the Canadian Travel Advisory, which was updated in February 8th, 2024, so that was last week, states to exercise high degree of caution when visiting Jamaica, which I hope everyone does when visiting anywhere, either locally or internationally. Some of the advisory the US gave are just general tips I would use when visiting anywhere. The tips included avoid walking or driving at night, avoid secluded places or situations, be aware of your surrounding, and keep a low profile. But Anywhere in the world you're listening from or watching from right now, just think about it. There's somewhere in your country, in your community, in your city that you would take these tips. There are places that you would not visit. In reviewing both Canadian and US advisory, I think whoever put together the advisory for Canada actually did research. What I appreciated about the Canadian advisory is that they stated crimes tend to be concentrated within what the police refer to as traditionally hotspots or high-risk communities. That being said, some communities that are listed in both advisories are places tourists would typically not go as they're not tourist areas and they're out of the way. So I will point out both advisories stated that Clarendon is a place to totally avoid, and I found it funny that they said you just pass through Clarendon on the highway, and Canada said the same thing. With my personal experience with Clarendon, to say to avoid Clarendon completely is a bit of a stretch. Statistically, I do understand it as Clarendon has a higher crime rate than most parishes, but as the prior advisory said by Canada, that there are some areas in Clarendon that are hotspots. So to avoid all of Clarendon completely is a no. The United States advised visitors to completely avoid St. James. And for those who are wondering where St. James is, if you've ever planned a trip to Jamaica, you have probably planned to come to Montego Bay. And Montego Bay is located in St. James. It's the capital of St. James. And even though statistically the crime rate in St. James is the highest in the country, these crimes are typically taking place in high-risk communities. Canada, unlike the US, just stated the communities for potential visitors to avoid. And that's what I appreciate more about Canada's advisory than the US. They're a bit more specific. And when it comes to something that can put a whole country economy in a different state, you definitely have to be specific. At least I would think so. That being said, there are some tips in the advisory, the Canadian advisory, that I believe are more related or tourists are more susceptible to these crimes. One of which is the lottery scamming, which Jamaica has become known for, especially in the US. Now, just think about it. If it is that you never entered to win a prize, you cannot be called to claim a prize. Always think about that. How can I be called for something I did not enter? The next one is fraud that they made on the advisory. Now, this also goes for Jamaicans because I'm seeing this as an increased problem in Jamaica where they're cloning cards. So pay careful attention when others are handling your cards, especially if it's a chip card, Master or Visa card, any card that can be used online. Remember, the person does not physically need your card to actually use your card. They just need to capture the information at the front and the back. The next thing they stated is use ATMs located in public areas or inside the bank or business. Now, this is true. However, criminals have become more blatant. So sometimes even within the bank ATM or business ATMs, they try to put devices in there. They may be caught quicker if it is in a business or a bank, but just be cautious as well. Next tip the Canadian advisor stated is cover the key card with one hand when you're entering your PIN. Now, the reasoning behind this is that even if there is a card reader or a clone card reader in the ATM, what a lot of persons don't know, when they clone your card, if they do not know your PIN, they cannot use the card. So if you go into the ATM, they have the clone reader, they put a camera in the ATM, they see you entering the PIN, they have access to your card. However, if it is that they cloned your card, you covered your PIN, they won't be able to have access. The next tip that the Canadian advisory is actually true about, and it doesn't affect tourists, is the state of emergency. So yes, there are some communities that are experiencing state of emergencies, but they're not tourist area. But in these cases, what happens is soldiers are at a checkpoint and you ask for your ID. The Canadian advisory actually put road safety under the advisory, and the reason I'm saying this, the first video I did was actually about travel guide to Jamaica. One of it was under safety, was road safety. And the reason I point this out, actually more tourists are affected by in Jamaica rather than actual homicide or crime. Also, for the US to say that our hospitals are under-resourced, that is true, but we're a third world country that offers free healthcare to everyone, no matter their age, race, or their financial situation. And for them to put reconsider travel to Jamaica due to crime and medical service in bold is very bold of them coming from the US. Our private hospitals are much cheaper than the US, and that includes without health insurance. Upfront, the least you might pay is $100, and that's probably the starting cost for something general and non-critical. To see a private doctor might be cheaper than going to a private hospital. No, for something more critical and specialized situation, that's a different case, because yes, they are right that we are not fully equipped with covering certain conditions. And when you think about it, Jamaica is a small population. There are certain conditions that are very rare in our population. So we might not have a lot of specialists in that field. And I know regarding health, there are millions of things that can go wrong health-wise. So I'm not going to advise relating to cost, or I'm not going to get into that, because that can go on for our next video. But what I will state, if it is that you're somebody who has a specialized condition, a rare condition, just take the necessary steps before you travel overall. So if you have a specialist doctor that you go to, speak with them before you travel. If they are able to find you a specialist doctor in whichever country you're visiting, that will be helpful. But Jamaican healthcare is not as bad as to reconsider traveling to Jamaica. If it is that you find anything concerning, just tell me in the comments below and I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you for watching.